Welcome to Eternal Family Adoptions, where members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints share stories and secrets of building forever families through faith-centered adoptions. I'm Donna Pope. Join us as we discuss how our faith can guide our adoption journey and create family connections. All right, welcome to Eternal Family Adoptions. We're super excited to have Emily with us here today. And Emily is a birth mother. She's also an adoptive mother. And she's also a woman of great faith. And so we're going to be talking with her about all of those things today. And I would like to tell a little bit about you, but Emily, it probably would be better for you to just share yourself. Why don't you start when you were 16 years old and you were faced with a really hard decision? Tell us about that.
Okay, yeah. So when I was 16, I found out that I was expecting a child. I was very scared and shocked and didn't know what to do. It wasn't something that I thought I would ever have to go through. But thankfully, I had a really good relationship with my mom, with my parents. And so I told her right away. And she just wrapped her arms around me and told me that it's going to be okay. And that we're going to get through this together. And that's what I needed. I needed that love and that support. And I did have a testimony of my Savior as well. And I knew that I could turn to him for help. And I knew that this decision, this situation was bigger than me now. This was something that was going to affect another human being their entire life. And, it was interesting how I kind of immediately felt this motherhood responsibility, even from the very beginning, even as a young woman. And so I just really loved that child and I wanted what was best for her. So I kind of had an inkling that maybe adoption was the path I would take, but I was scared to kind of say it out loud. But I'd had some experiences with, like my young women's leader at the time, who I was very close with. She had just adopted a baby girl, and kind of watching that experience and the joy that it brought to that family and the love that child received just, I think, gave me a little glimpse of what my daughter could have, if that were the route that I was going to take. So I think that helped a little bit. But ultimately, I just tried to go off of my gut feeling, and I just was feeling like this is what was best for her, is to place her for adoption.
No, that would have been a hard decision for you. Just how long ago was that?
So that was 25 years ago.
And so did you work through LDS Family Services at the time?
I did, yeah.
And tell me how that experience went.
So I started going to counseling at LDS Family Services right away, and they were amazing. I had an awesome counselor and social worker. She was very good at making sure that I did not feel any pressure. And she met with my parents, and she told them the same thing. This is Emily's decision. You cannot put any sort of pressure on her, either way, because this is something that she's going to have to live with her whole life. And she needs to know that it was hers and hers alone. And my parents were very respectful of that, and always tried to be supportive of whatever I was going to decide.
So did you feel pressure from anywhere?
I don't know that I felt pressure. I tried to think about the different options, and it just didn't feel like, for me, abortion wasn't something that I could ever consider. And as far as raising the baby, I knew that the birth father, although he was a really great guy, he was also a kid. He was 16 as well. I just didn't see a healthy, long-lasting marriage in the future. And so I just felt like this is what was best for her, is giving her a family that, was strong in the gospel, that could teach her about the Savior and the plan of salvation, and she could be sealed to them. And, all those things that were important to me growing up, I wanted her to have.
Yeah, for sure. I kind of think of your mom as a mom, thinking what I would feel like with a daughter that came to me with that news. And there would be so many directions she could go. She could go, what? Why'd you do this? She could go, well, then she could have gone all kinds of directions. The fact that she wrapped you in her arms and said, we'll get this through together, huge.
Yeah. And really an amazing example of Christ, right? Because I do feel like that's what he did as well. I truly feel like I was carried a lot of that, through a lot of that experience by my Savior. Because there's no way that I could have gone through something so difficult and so big without having him by my side.
I'm really curious what thoughts went through your head as you were thinking, I'm going to go tell my mom.
I was definitely scared. I mean, I knew that she would love me no matter what. I just had that kind of a childhood, but I definitely figured she'd probably be disappointed, mad, I don't know. Probably the disappointment is probably the hardest one to swallow. And she maybe was, but she did not express that to me. She just made me feel loved. And, I think she recognizes that no one is perfect, and that is why we have a Savior, right? To repent and to become better. So.
And your dad?
My dad handled it really well too. I didn't want to tell him myself. So I had my mom tell him. And I think he was emotional. I think he was upset, but also just always showed me love and grace.
What if they would have at any point said, honey, we'll raise the baby?
They didn't ever say that, but they did tell me if I chose to raise the baby, that they would be right there helping me, that, I wouldn't be doing it alone, that, like financially and those kinds of things, they would support me as long as we needed. I don't know. I mean, it wasn't so much that I felt like I was incapable of taking care of a child, because I think if I had made that decision, I probably would have made a great mom. But I feel like I was missing some of the pieces that I wanted for her. Just that eternal family, and that, I don't know, I guess just being in a place in my life where I could really give her the time and attention and focus that she needed when, I was still in high school.
And what about the birth father?
He was supportive. I think he kind of was scared. And he maybe just didn't know exactly how to handle it. But he was very kind and very, just basically said, it's up to you, and I will support you on what you decide. Yeah, but we were both very young. And he's a great guy still to this day.
You stay in contact some?
Not necessarily, but since we've been reunited with our birth daughter, we show up at the same events, and, we're always very friendly, and he's just very helpful and very kind. And he has, he's married with his own children, and it's nice to see him happy too,
So we're going to get to that part of the story soon. But instead, before we get there, I want to ask you how you went about choosing a family.
Yeah, so that was a really neat experience for me to learn how I can receive personal revelation. I was so scared that I would pick the wrong family. And I remember my social worker gave me a stack of profiles of adoptive families, and she said, just try to narrow it down to 2 or 3. And so I think initially what I ended up feeling as I was reading through these, well, first of all, I just felt like every single one of these families would be amazing, and they all deserved to have a baby. Like, it was kind of hard to not choose them all. But I did kind of feel like there was one right family out there for her, and I wanted to pick that right one. And so something that I kind of started noticing is that I started leaning towards the families that had a little boy already. And I don't know why. I think I have an older brother, and during this period of my life when I was going through something hard, he was just a huge support to me and very protective of me. And so I thought, I want her to have a big brother. And so I narrowed it down to these 2 families. They each had a little boy, 3 years old. And so I kind of got to that point. And then I remember talking to my parents, like, how do I choose? Like, how do I know? And they said, I love this because they really taught me how to listen to the Spirit. But they said, you'll know. Just when you are laying in your bed at night and you're just thinking, which family comes to mind the most? You know, when you're just laying there, is there a certain image or a certain, thought that comes to your mind? And so I kind of put that to the test. And so I was laying there, and I've got this picture right here. You probably can't see it very well, but this is the picture that I was sent.
Okay.
Let's see that cute little boy.
And yes, and you loved him.
This picture just kept coming to my mind, and it was strange because I'd never experienced this before, but even if I tried to push that picture from my mind and think of the other family, it wouldn't work. Like, that picture was just like stuck in my brain. I could not push it away. And so that's when I really felt like, okay, I think God is sending me a message here. So I went ahead and I chose that family. And then we set up a meeting to have a face-to-face. And there are no earthly words to describe what I felt when I was in the room with them. It just felt familiar, like I already knew them. And there was just this instant, like, family bond and this trust. And it was just, the only way I could describe it was, it felt like I had one foot in heaven. It was like the veil was very thin. And it just felt like we were just this one big heavenly family. And the little boy, his name was Billy. He was very sweet. He just kept coming up to me and giving me a big hug. And I don't know. There were so many things that happened in that meeting that I just felt like this is the right path. I'll show you, like, one tangible little confirmation was, it's customary to bring gifts. And so I had made my daughter a quilt, and Denise, the mom, had made me a fabric covered photo album. And when we handed them to each other, we realized that out of the thousands of baby prints out there in these, 50 different fabric stores between our house and theirs, we picked the same fabric.
That's crazy. That's just crazy.
Yeah. Like, what are the odds, right?
There are no odds.
Yeah. So
Let us see it. And
yes.
The blanket below it.
Yeah. So this was the album here. And Here's the quilt.
Oh, that is crazy.
So,
And you realize there are no coincidences.
right.
This isn't a coincidence.
No. Yeah. So that was really special for me, I think. I think I needed those confirmations, from God so that I could feel comfortable moving forward. The other really neat thing that happened in that meeting was they asked me if I had thought of any names for the baby, and I hadn't. I just assumed they would choose the name, and so I hadn't thought about it. But they said, well, we want you to have a say, like we want it to be something that you're comfortable with, and which I really appreciated, but I hadn't thought of any. So I asked them if they had thought of any, and they said, well, Bill, the adoptive dad, he likes the name Sarah, and Denise likes the name Elizabeth. So they thought about calling her Sarah Elizabeth for her first and middle name. But whenever you asked their son, Billy, what the baby's name was going to be, he would say Beth. And no matter what they said, like, are you sure you mean Elizabeth, or do you like Sarah? And he's like, no, Beth. It's Beth. And so then as we were continuing to hand out these gifts, my grandma had sent a gift to give to them. She would have been there because her and I are very close, but she was fighting cancer at the time and she couldn't make it. And so she had sent a gift, and when they opened the gift from my grandma, the inscription inside said, Love Grandma Beth.
Ah.
And as soon as they saw the name Beth, they just started crying, and they just thought Billy was right. Like, Beth is her name. And so it was just really neat that we had that connection of, my grandma's name, and that when she passed away about a year and a half later, we've all felt like Grandma Beth has been her guardian angel.
No, that's really sweet. That's a really sweet story. We see that happen often. Those little footprints in the sand, those little teeny things that confirm to you that you're going in the right direction.
Yeah.
So tell me about how things went at delivery.
So I was very scared. I would joke around before delivery. I was like, Mom, I can't do it. Like, I think my body's going to spontaneously combust. Like, my body doesn't know what to do. It's going to hurt. Like, I was very scared. But it ended up going, fairly smoothly. We had a few little complications, but it all worked itself out. And, she was born, and I'm sure, a lot of people have experienced this. You hear that baby's cry, and there's just something so powerful, something so sacred, witnessing the birth of a child. And I just felt this instant love. It was like I could feel God's love for her. And it was just so beautiful. I really tried to stay present, and not think about what was to come, and just enjoy every little moment with her. As you see, I kind of have a precious moments thing. And so we kind of said, like, we just need to hold on to these precious moments that we have together, even though there are only a few, And so, yeah, I held her. We had family come. My grandma Beth came and held her. I had cousins come visit. The birth father's family and him came and visited, and it was really special. It was really special.
Now, during that time, it would have been very natural for you to rethink your decision.
Yeah.
Did you?
No. There was a moment in time when the birth father and I were alone with the baby, and we were just sitting there holding her, and he did bring it up. He said, we could still keep her And, and I would step up and we could do this if that's what you wanted. And so I feel like I kind of had that temptation moment, to change my mind. And I had just, like I told you, I'd had too many signs from God that this was the right path. And so, I told him, no, I really think that this is what's best.
So tell me how it felt for you to then place that baby with that family.
Yeah, so we went back to the agency, and the family was there. We were in separate rooms, and then we just met together in the same room for just brief minutes. I think they try to keep those moments pretty brief and not draw them out. I don't think anything could have prepared me for that experience. Like, I knew it would be hard, but like, that's the hardest thing I've ever had to do. So at first it surprised me. It was a little bit weird. Like, initially I was starting to tell the adoptive parents, like, oh, she just had her bottle and she needs to be changed. Like, I'm talking to them as if like I'm handing her to the babysitter, And so it was a little bit different, but then I stopped myself and I just thought, no, like, they're her parents. They know what to do. They don't need advice from a 16-year-old on how to take care of a newborn. But, this probably all lasted like, I don't know, 70 seconds. Like, I don't know how long it was, but I handed her to her dad. I specifically requested that I wanted to hand her to her dad. And I think just like my mom and I have a really close relationship, but my dad's like a teddy bear. And so I just kind of wanted her to be held by her dad first. I don't know why, but so I placed her in her dad's arms and walked away and walked out the door and got in my car. My parents drove me home and I cried the whole way. And probably for the next 6 months, I cried. It was the most heartache, painful experience I've ever had to go through. And I wouldn't wish it upon my worst enemy. But I also, like, even on those darkest nights when I just was awake at night and I couldn't sleep, I never doubted my decision. Like, I was always willing to make that sacrifice for her because I just knew she was where she needed to be. And I was given lots of moments of peace, knowing that, and that brought me a lot of comfort.
So you said you felt a lot of pain and you hurt. Did you ever want to try to undo it?
No.
Never did. And so, go ahead.
I think I was able to kind of separate myself from, or I guess I was able to separate Beth before placement and Beth after placement. And so when I received pictures and letters from the adoptive family, I just was overjoyed. Like, I just was so happy for her, so grateful for the family, so happy for all of them. I just felt peace and joy looking at those letters. But then when I thought about our time in the hospital and just how much I missed my baby, that's when the heartache came. So there was kind of that first 6 months to a year, there was kind of that like mix of emotions, just constantly, daily, feeling peace and joy, feeling heartache and grief and loss. It was really an interesting time, but I really had to trust that God was in charge of this journey, and that he would help us.
So you got through that time in part because of your faith in God and seeing that he was guiding this. How did your parents also help you through that?
Oh, I mean, my My parents were always there comforting me and helping me, and they felt the same way I did. I mean, they lived through all of these experiences too. They saw the miracles, they saw the heartache, they saw all of it, and just being able to not go through it alone I'm very grateful for.
Sometimes we forget that they lost their granddaughter.
Yeah.
And they felt that loss as well.
Oh, yeah. And I know they did. I think they probably tried to spare me some of that, seeing some of that pain, you know? But yeah, I knew that was hard. That was their first granddaughter. And it was my grandma Beth's first great-granddaughter, great-grandchild. And so, yeah, I mean, everybody was very excited for her and also very heartbroken.
And your brother's niece.
Yep, that's right.
So you wrote a song to her. When did you write the song?
So I wrote the poem while I was still pregnant with her. And so initially it was a poem written to her, just expressing kind of how I made this decision and how I'm trusting that God is watching over her, and that, you know, ultimately my hope for her is to return to Heavenly Father. You know, so in the grand scheme of things, like, the most important part is being able to return home to God. And so that was kind of, I guess, sharing a little bit of my testimony and just my hope that maybe one day we'll be reunited in heaven, kind of a concept.
And so you now, 16, 17, 18, you go on and you grow up and you get married. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So a couple years later, I met my husband. You know, we were married in the Bountiful Temple. We had children, and it was interesting because we ended up moving out of state for about 7 years. And I don't know why, but it kind of felt like a fresh start to me. While I was in Utah, I would share stories about Beth all the time, because everybody knew, and I loved talking about her. But when I moved there, it was like, I didn't tell anyone, not even my closest friends. And I'm not exactly sure why, but I think it hasn't been until more recent years where people just are becoming more open about adoption. But yeah, so, and I had kind of, you know, I was knee deep in raising my kids and, you know, just kind of doing, my husband and I just doing our thing. And, but yeah, it was really interesting, kind of how I handled all that. And then when we moved back, we realized we probably need to tell our kids, just in case the topic comes up. So we told our children, and they handled it well, and my oldest daughter actually kind of seemed excited, but I kind of had to, like, let her down a little bit that we don't have contact with her, so, you know, it's not like we can just go hang out. And but because, yeah, anyway, yeah, but we, you know, we've had a beautiful life raising our family, and my husband's always been very supportive and understanding of that situation. And
I do want to ask you, because we missed it, how did you go about telling your husband? How did that come up?
Yeah, so probably a couple weeks after we'd started dating, it was such a big part of my life that, you know, I couldn't wait to tell him, really. I was a little bit nervous that he was going to judge me, but I knew he was a great guy, you know, and I knew that he had a strong testimony of the Savior. And so I just hoped that he would be understanding of that. And he was. First thing he said was, "Wow, that must have been really hard." And so just to hear that, like, empathy, was huge for me. And yeah, he just wanted to know about her, and I showed him all the pictures and all the letters, and ever since then, he's very much a part of, that story, just being involved. And I mean, it's interesting because he really loves her like a daughter too.
So how did the reunion come about? You told your kids, and now...
Yeah. So, about 17 years later, so 17 years after placement, I hadn't gotten a letter from the family in a long time, which was kind of pre-planned. Back then, it was sort of set up where you write frequently the first few years, and then it sort of tapers off a little bit. So I wasn't necessarily alarmed, but on her 17th birthday, I thought, I just really want to write her a letter. She's turning 18 next year. It's a big time of life. I just really kind of wanted to know how she was doing, and maybe, maybe she'd be wanting to meet me. I don't know. I didn't want to put any sort of pressure on her, but so I just sent a letter to kind of check in, and I never received a response. And so, and just to kind of explain, the letters were all through the adoption agency. We didn't have any contact information of each other. We didn't know each other's last names. And so, well, let me back up a little bit. I brought the letter into the agency, and I handed it to the receptionist. And as I was walking away, I had the strongest feeling that stopped me in my tracks. I don't really know how to describe it, except that it felt like something big was happening. I couldn't leave the waiting room. I'm sure the receptionist was confused. I was just standing there. But I was trying to understand my feelings. And so I felt like, I kind of felt two feelings. First, I felt something big was happening, and I half expected to see Beth walk in the door. She didn't, but that's what I was feeling, right? That's kind of what came to my mind, is like, is she coming here? Should I wait? And then the second part was this overwhelming feeling that I needed to do something, that God needed me to do something. And I just felt like I wanted to help other birth moms or adoptive families. I don't know, just all of a sudden I felt this sense that I wanted to help people going through this. And so a few days later, I am about to record my first song, and I hadn't decided what song yet, but I have a lot, and I had recent ones I thought I'd start with. But instead, the night before, I felt like I needed to record Beth's song that I wrote to her. So I started rewriting that song, basically now kind of from the perspective of, 17 years later. And so I rewrote the song. It initially was titled One Family, and now in the rewrite it's called One Day. And what I didn't realize during that rewrite was it was almost like God was preparing me for this one day that was going to come shortly. My initial song was kind of more like we'll see each other in heaven kind of a vibe, where this one felt more hopeful that it could be any time. And I didn't mean to write it that way. That's just kind of how it ended up, because I had no idea what was to come. But so I finished that song, and right at that same time, my sister did Ancestry DNA. Only because her husband is adopted and he wanted to do his to find his birth family. And so they both did it. And we realized, I had not even thought that Beth would have done Ancestry DNA because she wasn't even an adult yet. But I guess she had. And so my sister called me very excited when she realized that we had found Beth on there. And I was very hesitant at first because I didn't know why she had done it. I didn't know if she wanted to meet me But I know my sister kind of helped me walk through that. And she said, Emily, you haven't been receiving their letters. They may not have been receiving yours. Maybe this is, God's way of helping you find each other again, And so I reached out to her mom, the adoptive mom, on Facebook, because I didn't want to push any boundaries. And I just kind of left it as, here's my information, no pressure, but if you want to contact me, then I would love that. And so she immediately messaged back, and she was so thrilled and so excited. And she said that Beth had been wanting to meet me and that she was really hoping I could make it to her high school graduation, which was just a few months away. And so I was able to do that. First, we just started emailing just to kind of ease into the relationship. Both her and I, am realizing, are very similar personalities. We're both very cautious, slow-moving people. And so, but we built a beautiful relationship, emailing, and then we met in person. And just like it was how I described at the face-to-face meeting, it was like we were family. It just felt familiar and like no time had passed. It was really a beautiful reunion. My husband was there, her parents were there, and it was just so fun to see her, this beautiful, young woman, and just loving and smart and kind and talented, and just all the things that I wanted for her, she had. And I was so grateful.
It feels like it should be a TV show, doesn't it?
Uh-huh.
You just want, and so you wrapped your arms around each other and you hugged, and could you see her in you and you?
Oh, yeah.
Her?
Yeah. My husband especially, he says it's kind of surreal looking at the two of you because she looks just like you did when I met you. He's like, is that who? Like, is that Emily? No, that's Beth. But she looks a lot like me. Like I said, we have similar personalities. She's very musically talented. I think we really connect in that way. She's way more talented than I am, for sure. Her parents have really fostered that. And, anyway, it's kind of surreal.
People have a hard time imagining that you could have that kind of reunion and there be good feelings between you and your husband and the adoptive mom and dad. That there can be a connection there that's still full of love and concern and, as you called it, familial feelings. Were you surprised about that?
I guess I kind of was surprised at how much my husband wanted to be a part of it, and how, like, the things that I was feeling, he was feeling too. Even though he wasn't there when she was born or when she was placed, like, he still felt all those same kind of paternal feelings for her. And also just knowing how special she was to me, he just felt that same way for her as well. And for her parents, I'm just grateful for the amazing people that they are, and that they really helped her understand her adoption, understand her place in the world, help her with her relationship with God. Like, they just really, I think, handled it really well.
And so how did she feel?
I mean, as far as I know, she was very excited. There's just a bond. There's just a really cool bond that we have. I think she was just happy to have her birth family in her life. Like, I've loved that she's been so welcoming and so inclusive. When we whenever she has any sort of, big event, we're always invited, and we always feel very welcome and loved. And, yeah.
And how's your relationship with her mom?
It's amazing. She's just so good at, I'm not the greatest with words, but she's so good at kind of helping explain how she feels, and how we just have a really, a neat relationship. Like she says, like, I don't feel jealous or envious when, like, I see her have special moments with you, because I feel like she's God's child, right? And he has allowed both of us to be a part of her life in different ways. And both roles are beautiful and important. There are things that she can give Beth that I can't, and has her whole life. And there are things that I can provide for Beth that she can't. And she just thinks that together we just, make this beautiful team.
Okay, so now you've developed the relationship.
Yeah.
We're leading into you being with her at her wedding.
Yeah.
So
she was married back in May. So before that, she asked me if I would sing at her wedding. And I just was so honored. I mean, to be able to participate in her wedding at all, I didn't ever think I would get to do that. Like, every opportunity that she gives me, I just feel like is a huge blessing, because it's not something that I ever thought I would be able to experience on this earth. And so we practiced for the wedding, and that was really fun to be able to spend time together and kind of watch her develop her talents. Like I said, she is very talented, but she doesn't quite know how talented she is yet. And so being able to kind of help her through some of those, nervous feelings, and just really encourage her to share what God has given her, because she is just so amazing. It was neat to be able to kind of play that role for her. And so then, there was kind of a little bit before, so 2 days before the wedding, my other daughter was also getting married, a month later. And so she had a bridal shower. So Beth came to the bridal shower and, mentioned, hey, I'm going to go dress shopping today. And I was like, 2 days before the wedding, like, you don't have a dress? She's like, well, I do, but I don't like the way it looks on me. Like, I thought I would love it, but I just don't feel pretty in it. And so I want to try to find, something else. And so
this was a trick.
Yeah. And so I was like, she was just going to drive around herself and try to find something. And I said, well, would you like me to go with you? And she's like, yeah, that'd be great. And so my daughter, Kira, also came, and we tried to find a bridal shop. But of course, this is Saturday evening. The bridal stores are either closed or they're about to close and they're booked. And she's getting married Monday. And I just thought, this is like, there's no way we're going to find a dress on a Saturday night. And then so we're looking on our phones, and of course both of our phones die because both of us are notorious for forgetting to charge them and losing our chargers. And so that was another funny thing that it's like, I didn't realize that was genetic, but apparently I passed that on to her. Anyway, so we finally got our phones back on, and I just randomly found this woman that lives 5 minutes from my house who rents wedding dresses out of her basement. And so we show up at like 8 p.m. I think we were there for 2 hours. And she found the perfect dress. It fit her. It didn't need alterations. And she looked so beautiful in it. But I just remember like looking around and thinking, how is this even happening? Like, how am I dress shopping with my daughter who I placed for adoption. Like, I just did not think that that was something I would ever get to experience with her. So that was really, really neat. So then we get to the wedding, and it was so beautiful. Just watching her start her own family, it kind of felt like this full circle moment. And as we're singing our duet, it's almost like time stood still, right? It was like I'm looking around, and my husband said he felt the same thing. We're like looking around and thinking, is this really happening? Like, like, does anyone else witness this miracle that we're seeing right here? I don't know. It's hard to describe. But as I was feeling that, it's like I had these flashbacks from 25 years ago, and just thinking, did God know that we would be here at this time and in this way? Like, did he know, right? He probably did. And maybe that's the piece that he spoke to my soul. And maybe that's why I was able to make that decision and go through with that decision. Maybe that's why I never doubted, and that I knew that Christ would somehow make this right. I don't claim to know how, God works or how our spirits work, but to me it kind of felt like maybe somehow my spirit knew that it would all be okay.
Somehow.
Yeah.
And the blessing that you were to the family.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think we forget that for every birth mom who's considering placing her child for adoption and praying for the right decision, there are multiple families praying for a child and for the right decision. And this wrapping around, this intertwining that we see happen, it is miraculous. It is so fun to be a part of.
Yeah.
So how are things now?
Great. I mean, I just feel so grateful to be a part of her life. She's just an amazing person. She's going to do so many good things in this world, and I'm just grateful I can witness some of it. I think really, I'm grateful for my Savior and for God being the author of this beautiful story. I could not have written a story this beautiful if I had tried, He just knows. He knows us. He knows our hearts. He knows what we need, and he can see the beginning from the end. And so yeah, I think it's strengthened both of our testimonies. And I'm very, like I said, I'm very close with her adopted parents, and they feel the same way. Like, after the wedding, we all just shared how we felt, how everything went, and just what a beautiful experience that was for all of us to have this full circle moment.
Now we know that this doesn't happen for all families. So
right.
we know that not all birth moms have this kind of happy ending experience. We know sometimes it doesn't go this way at all.
Yeah.
But it is beautiful when it does.
Yeah.
It is really nice.
Yeah.
So if you were talking to a woman, let's say she's 16 years old, and she's faced with a decision like you were, what would you say to her?
So there's a song that I used to listen to on repeat when I was pregnant, because there was basically like one or two adoption songs at the time. And it was
My Arms to Yours.
Yeah. Michael McLean's song. And in that song, it says, I'm not on a soapbox saying how we all should be. I'm just trusting in my feelings, and I'm trusting God above. And that would be my advice, is to trust your feelings. Let God guide your life. Like, I remember being very scared, and I know, like, in hindsight, I can look back and say, oh yeah, I just knew. But it was a process, right? little by little, there were little things that God put in my heart, and things that I felt and things that I thought. And over time, that built up to my decision. And once I made that decision, he was very quick to confirm it. And so I think just trying to look for those moments when God's trying to speak to you and trust those feelings and trust those thoughts, because he knows you and he will help you and he will guide you.
Emily, thank you so much for sharing your story. And for all of you who might be listening to this story, if you're considering placing a child for adoption, please reach out to us and see how we can help you. If you're wanting to adopt, please reach out to us and we'll see how we can help you. And if you are an adoptee and you're not knowing where to turn, again, please reach out and we'll get you in contact with people and try to help you move forward. Emily, thank you so much for being with us.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining this episode of Eternal Family Adoptions. I'm Donna Pope. Every child deserves not just a home, but a forever family rooted in love and faith. So visit our website, eternalfamilyadoptions.com, to access faith-based adoption resources and sign up for a newsletter. And join us next time as we continue this journey together.